to 10 year period was just added more to it by working with my own staff, my acupuncturist, my reflexologist, and other health professionals that were really on the cutting edge of health and nutrition. So that's sort of where it was born in my mind. And kind of parallel to not being satisfied with the clients, where they were going and their ultimate health. I've said this to you on the show before. I've had my own ebbs and flows in my own health. And I think sickness and disease have been my personal biggest motivators to learn how to become healthier. So when I experimented with it myself and saw really great results, I knew that there was something to it. So I would say, for me, to summarize the question that you asked, which is, what drove me to it, some of it is my own natural archaeology digging personality, but a lot of it was my own health. And when I ever received any gift of health or a bump, I always wanted to share that. I felt so strongly that it wasn't mine to be healthy and feel well without everyone I knew having a taste of it. So that's kind of what drove me to it.
And we are certainly grateful for your knowledge and the fact that you are sharing it with us. I am going to kind of go back to the beginning, because when I looked at in the studio, I realized that the first part of the show was not caught. So I'm going to go back and just briefly talk a little bit about Susan, in case you're just joining us, because you actually heard the answer to the question, how did you get involved in liver detox? But you didn't hear the intro to the show because it didn't come up. So again, welcome. This is the SCW channel on KP Media TV. And I am Sheila Craig Whiteman, your host for Living Well with Dr. Sheila. I want to thank you so much for joining me. Today's topic is Liver Detox 101. And I am talking with Susan Spangler, who has been on our show a few times already. This is the third show that she's done, part of her series, Sugar. Am I consuming too much sugar? The 3 P's of healthy living. And today, Liver Detox 101. So we're going to be talking to her about this subject. And again, Susan is a health coach. She is a Pilates instructor. And she also has she has graduated from the Internationally Credentialed Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and they have they're a cutting edge health coach program. I also had mentioned before that Susan does cooking videos. They are on YouTube. Please be sure to check those out. They're really yummy. They're very quick. They're not complicated. She does them in a short period of time. So, and you can, of course, emulate that and do that too. So now that we have gotten that out of the way, I am going to go back to the subject at hand, which is liver detox. And we're going to talk to Susan again about question number 2, which is why would someone want to detox or detoxify?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think a lot of times people do it because they hear other people doing it, or they think that it's the thing to do, to lose weight or whatever it might be. But there really are some very poignant, specific, and serious signs that, your body might need to detoxify. And we can talk through those. But I think in general, when just high level, when we are not feeling well, we're not our best, or maybe we're feeling a little out of balance, I think that's like the overarching, the hierarchical sign that maybe the body, its systems, maybe specifically its liver, are not functioning at their best. So certainly we could go through a list of individual signs and symptoms, and I will, but I just want to caution your viewers that just because I might talk about having an experience with digestive discomfort or bloating after eating, that in and of itself does not mean you need to detoxify your liver. at the end of the day, a lot of the things that I'll talk about are symptoms and signs that could be related to lots of different things. So I will go through a list of few, but I don't want your viewers to hear the one symptom that they have, okay, that means I need to do a liver detox. And again, high level overview, doing this liver detox program that I do with my clients, that I do myself, that I'm recommending, it can certainly be a once or twice a year thing, a maintenance thing that anyone does. So you might experience things like craving sweets. To contrast that, maybe craving starchy foods or even salts. That can be a sign that something in the body, and maybe the liver itself, is not doing its job fully. You may be, despite going through calorie restriction or doing some other type of regimented diet plan, you might still be struggling to lose weight. You may experience the feelings of anything from tired to complete exhaustion, and anything sort of in between that, or an ebb and flow in how you're feeling or handling sleep. You may be having difficulty concentrating or staying focused. And especially when that is not your personality or it's not your norm, periods of going through that can be related to needing to detoxify overall, but specifically the liver. In addition, feeling fluctuations in mood or irritability. And specifically, physiologically, you may be going through periods of feeling like your skin is not its best, or you're suffering with rashes or pimples or itchy skin. And one of the things I see very often with clients is they're susceptible to catch everything that's going around. You know, the flu is around, they get the flu. Allergy season, the allergies are flared back up. They can be signs that your body is handling too much of a load, figuring out all that it needs to do, and the immune system side by side may be weakened. And the other one that I do specifically want to mention is unexplained pain of sorts, or even headaches of sorts. And those can be general signs of needing to detoxify. But specific to the liver, I want to talk about one that might be very familiar and common to people, but it can be sort of the yellowing of the eyes, which would be a very severe sign of the liver needing to detoxify. But abdominal swelling and maybe abdominal pain, swelling generalized over the body, legs, ankles, knees. And again, I will mention the itchy skin again, because that can be very connected to the liver. Changes in the urine, for example, the urine being much darker than normal and consistently, not just one elimination. A change in the color of the stools for moving toward the paler colors. And of course, I mentioned earlier tiredness, but a chronic fatigue where you're stuck in a fatigue pattern that maybe has lasted a longer period of time. And finally, digestionally, there might even be the upset of stomach, or maybe persistent nausea, or even vomiting. So these are just some of the signs that you've got overall toxicity, or you're in toxicity overload, or specific to the liver. And I think just to wrap up this piece, I want to give sort of a high level of the liver. It is the body's filter. It's the place that everything that comes in us and that we're exposed to is filtered through the body. And if we think about it, it's like the vacuum cleaner gets full over time. We empty the vacuum and we clean the filter. And I like to think of the liver like that, at least in this analogy, because then it makes some sense to detoxify it a few times a year, because it is our body's main filter system. And if it weren't just for the foods we eat, the additives to our foods, the potential pesticides that our foods are exposed to, if it weren't that all passed through the liver, that's enough. But when you think environmentally of what we're exposed to, what's in our water, what's in our chemical products that we put on our body, shampoos and hair things, and we think about what's external that we're exposed to in the pollutants in the air, we really are bombarded by a lot that is not synonymous and harmonious to what our bodies need. So I do think a period of detoxification a few times a year on all levels, not just food and pollutants, but even social media and even other exposures that are toxic to us. This could include relationships, people, work situations. And so it's a break. It's really so important to unwind and do it in a way that you love yourself and that you're giving yourself an extreme gift of self-care.
Yeah, and that's a good tip for overall physical and mental health. When you add in, of course, social media and probably television, because there are so many things going on in the world today that even though you feel like you can see it and it can float away and it doesn't affect you, there are many things that still can stay with you. A particular story, news media loves sad stories, so a particular story or a particular issue that you see someone else is going through. So I think a good detox mentally of social media is really a good idea. Really good idea. Could be hard for some people, but it's well worth it.
Yeah.
So another question I want to ask, because you did briefly, and not so briefly, but you did kind of mention the connection between the liver and digestion. And could you talk about that a little bit more?
Sure. And what I like to think about in terms of the liver is that it basically regulates most of the chemicals in the blood. And then what it does is it excretes this product, which we know as bile. And this helps carry away the waste products from the liver. So, our bodies are just so wonderfully made to work automatically. And we don't think about these connections, but our innate wisdom knows how to do these things, which really to me is so miraculous. But all of the blood that's leaving the stomach and the intestines, that passes through the liver. So what you eat comes into your stomach and it does its job and creates what it creates. And as it passes through its process, ultimately, all of that still passes through the liver. So the concept of you are what you eat, and what you eat is what makes you, is so, so important. And that's why when we talked a few weeks ago in the 3 Ps of healthy eating, we talked about not just the products that you eat, but the process that they go through, right? And all that you need to do to be able to plan well. Because we truly have become so desensitized to the journey of our food before it hits the table. And when we bring our groups together and we put them in the setting to do a 10 to 14 day liver detox, quite frankly, people are overwhelmed in the beginning that they have to think about their food, that they have to buy different food, that they have to eat different food. That process is very overwhelming because they become so desensitized. But in terms of the liver is the thing that sort of makes the digestive juices that we call this bile. And this is what helps us digest things like fats and certain vitamins that aren't just, that need to process through the body versus automatically soluble. So our bile ducts are going to carry from the liver to different parts of the body. For example, for gallbladder, for storage, or to small intestines for use. And so our organs have all these very specific jobs. And when the liver becomes so saturated and so downtrodden and so congested and so tired because of all that we're giving it, and we haven't even mentioned things like supplements and pharmaceuticals and other things that in general is the job of the liver to figure out what to take, what to use, what to send where. So the liver needs a break a couple of times a year. And I think it's important if you resonate with this process of detoxifying your liver, to be very careful about the way that you go about doing it. Does that make sense?
It does, because that actually was going to be my next question. How or what is the best way, or what is one way to do a liver detox? I don't know if many people are familiar with how to do it, specifically for the liver.
Pardon me. Yeah, exactly. And I'll go back to one of the comments that I made in the first and second show that you taped. And we talked a little bit about during our sugar show, which was all about, are you consuming so much and where is it coming from? And the sugar specifically is one thing that we want to take out of the liver when we detoxify. But I'll go back to my comment, which is, I don't like to tell people what to eat. I don't like to tell them how to detoxify. I don't like to tell them that they should see this doctor for that, because I think that we are all stewards of our own journey. And that even though we've given over a lot of responsibility to healthcare professionals, to coaches, to whomever, guides and Sherpas and whatever, that so much of what we need is inside. And we really have to get back in touch with ourselves to know how to detoxify the liver or even heal our own bodies. You know, having said that, I meet a lot of people who come to me and say, well, I had a lot of success with this cleanse and I detoxified doing this. And I ask, how did you do that? Well, I went online and I found this packet, and this box came in the mail, and it was filled with pills and powders and things to do. And I did that for 14 days, and I was in the bathroom and I was so sick, but I lost 3 pounds. So what I'll say is, okay, if that's what you feel is best for you and you feel that that's helped you, I'm glad that you experienced that and you went through that. I don't recommend that kind of a detox or a liver cleanse, because I've got questions about the products. I've got questions about the process. I've got questions about your unique individuality. I've got questions about the other medicines that you might be on. And sometimes those type of cleanses where you don't have to think, you just have to take the pills and drink the powders, sometimes they can be very, very harsh. And sometimes they can very, very quickly jolt your body into excretions and releases that on some level might need to happen, but it can be too much. So I think it's really important to research what's available and be in partnership with someone that's guiding you and leading you and coaching you. That is my background as a holistic health coach. I will tell you that the liver detox program that I do, that I recommend to my clients that came from the Darcy Wellness program, is very simple. And it is whole foods. And it restricts specific things that you let go of for a certain period of time, but you're not inundated with products and pills and shakes and lots of different things. You basically do a very holistic liver detox, and it primarily uses food, and it avoids very specific things for a short period of time. I'll give you an example of a couple. One would be salt, and we can talk about why salt if you want a little bit later. Alcohol is another one. And during the cleanse, liver detox cleanse, you avoid animal products. So those are just 3 examples. But more than what you're avoiding is, what are you doing? And you are eating. You're actually eating, God's food, whole food, fruits and vegetables. You are eating. You're not starving yourself, and you are not taking a lot of external supplements. There are some that we do, but they're pretty simple. So does that help a little bit? Does that answer?
It does answer the question. Excuse me. I don't Yeah, because you kind of said that it's best to do your own research or work with a health coach, basically. Is yeah.
Yeah, and if you didn't work with a coach, you might be working with your naturopathic doctor. You might
Mm-hmm.
be working with a doctor of Chinese medicine. You know, your primary care doctor might be someone that has, you know, a program that they recommend, especially if you've got any kind of a diagnosis around the liver. I know, for example, you know, many of us now are dealing with things like a fatty liver
Yeah,
or some
very
type
common.
of, you know, liver dysfunction. So you might be working specifically with, a specialist, like even your nephrologist or your kidney doctor. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, I'm saying partner with someone that knows your unique story.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. So, and you did kind of answer this question, but I'm trying to just go through. Um, I'm sorry, the questions that we have just to make sure that we cover everything. But how are the different approaches to detoxifying different, and what are the advantages and disadvantages of each?
Right. And you're right. We did touch a little bit on this. And I do think a very common approach to detoxifying is this, you know, I buy a package, it's full of pills and powders and different things. And for a few days, I stick to that. And so I think, I did already say what a disadvantage might be to that. And that is, it's sort of like it's a one size fits all, and it doesn't take into account what your specific needs or your specific limitations are. So I think that's definitely a disadvantage. An advantage of that might be that if you get it right and it resonates with your body, it might be sort of like a quick fix, one and done, 3 to 5 days, and I'm finished with it. And again, I don't recommend that. That doesn't mean there aren't viewers of yours out there that have done it and had success and done really well and feel great. So I don't want to minimize that. I just caution people to do these things alone, reading about it on the internet and not putting it together holistically. And then I think doing an approach like what we do, I think there's so many advantages to it. And I'll start with just one. And if we have time, we can cover some of the other advantages. But, it's the fact that you're eating food, and you're eating food that's good for you, that's viable, and that's alive, and that maybe you already have, and that it's available to you easily without, having to order it and, pay for it. And in terms of additional things that I think are great about the way we do the liver detox, and I would highly recommend this to your viewers if they have opportunities to be in this communal setting. Our liver detox we go through as a group, and at times we've had maybe as few as maybe 8 to 10 men and women that have gone through it with us, but at times we've had 20 and 25 people all going through it together. And I do think there's a real value in community health. And so meeting with people, we cook together, we share the food and the recipes, we give out the recipes so that we make sort of the process much less intimidating. So I think there's value in being able to doing something like this with a group, in addition to your eating whole foods and regular foods. And then finally, on the advantage of doing something like this, I think when you're eating whole foods and you're doing it in a community, you are certainly, sharing that collective experience, but at the same time, you're building new relationships. And you might be building a relationship with someone that you'll have, for a long time. And I've seen that happen in the groups that we've done. And it's a really wonderful thing to be able to share those common goals. And in terms of sort of a final piece of doing, a food-based liver detox, which is elimination. And in addition to eliminating things like animal products and alcohol and sugar, there are a few other things that we recommend. And I will just mention one if we have time, and that's caffeine, because there is a very, very deep love affair with caffeine in this country. And they call it running on Dunkin' for a reason, because many people are really existing because of the adrenaline and the caffeine, need and addiction, and not really tuning into the body's innate exhaustion and overtaxing of the adrenal glands. So we do introduce a number of these things that we offer people an opportunity to walk away from for a certain period of time. But the value of doing this in a group is, as you hear people doing better and seeing results and shedding weight, which is one of the hugest components of this for a lot of people, is the ability to shed weight naturally, that, you know, there's a real incentive to want to do that again, you know, a second time, later time in the year, and to really share that with your own community. Because I think in the end, one of my goals always in our groups is to turn the people into the room into health coaches. So they become the advocates and the health coaches within their own family. And it's been a wonderful thing raising my own children to know that they've been circled with this information. And when I hear them having a conversation with another young adult about a way to get healthy, you know your words have not gone deaf, and that they really are vibrating in the universe.
Yeah, and that's wonderful about your children, that they are kind of following in your footsteps, not so much doing the coaching and everything, but knowing the 3 Ps of healthy eating and healthy living, right? So how long should a liver detox last, or what is the average? And I know it's different for different people depending on what you do, but how long would it take, or can it take, for you to begin to see results?
Right. And as you said, it'll be different for different people. I think it will also be different depending on whether they're doing some kind of packaged product liver detox, or if they're doing one like ours. And ours is a 14-day program, but we tell people, if you go 3 days and you say that's enough, then you listen to your wisdom and you say that's enough. If you're able to do, the first 7 days where you're basically just on fruits and vegetables, that's basically it, and you've avoided the number of things that I've already listed, and if at the end of that 7 days you say that's it, we find the most benefit doing a 14-day program. And what we do is, for that first 7 days, it's just fruits and vegetables. And then when we get into the second 7 days, we go another 3 to 5 days where we add in one grain, like brown rice, for example, or quinoa. So you get some new things as you get to the second phase, and we add in like a nut like almond and just a few other things that you're really looking forward to when you get to that sort of next phase. And then the last few days, we integrate back in either a clean fish or chicken. So it's over the 14 days, but it's not restricting. It's building and it's adding. And what we find, what happens is as you get through your first 3 days where you're feeling like, oh, I don't have any meat, or I'm missing my coffee, or whatever you're feeling, which is an emotion. That is the emotion with walking away from something. But there's a learning. Once you get past that, what happens is you generally start to notice how you feel. And then there's an incentive and sort of a momentum to want to be able to do certain parts of it longer. We have people that do the first 7 days and they say, I'm going to start eating almonds and I'm going to add in rice and I'm going to do this on day 8. And then they get to day 8 and they go, I'm feeling really good. I think I could do a couple more days of this. So we kind of present it as a sliding scale that you do have to sort of weigh in on and decide for yourself. But the beautiful thing about it is you're surrounded by a coach and lots of other people who are in the journey with you. And even when you're ready to quit or, down the gallon of coffee, you've got other people that are talking to you about how they feel and what strategies they're using. So I highly recommend it. We actually are really hoping to be able to do a virtual liver detox soon. Mm-hmm. And if it's something that if that's something that your viewers are interested in, I would love to come back and help with that or moderate that. So maybe you can shout out to any of your viewers who might be interested and, have them to email you or whatever you want, but we could definitely get a virtual one going, because it's a virtual world now. And all we need is to reach out our hand, and grab somebody else's hand to help. And I certainly would be, available to do that. So I think the time you do the liver detox is really individual. And Sheila, you just let me know if we need to move on. But I do want to say that in our liver detox, it is so much more than about the food. The food you can't eat, the food you can eat. That's a part of it. But we spend a lot of time talking about the liver and its function, alkaline foods versus acidic foods. We do a lot of education around the body and how it works. And we spend an inordinate amount of time talking about the rest of our lives. And even during the liver detox, you know, we have some certain rules for when you're going to go into a liver detox. And the number one thing that we want people to do is to slow down. Take a day or two off work the first 2 days. Take a nap in the middle of the afternoon on day 2 when you hear your body say, I'm sleepy. We want people in the bath with Epsom salts at the end of the day. Why? The liver is emitting. It is shunting off toxins. We put a little package together for our clients, and in the package, you know, there's a little box of Epsom salts. We also give them dry brush gloves. We have them do the Ayurvedic dry brushing so that they can pull the toxins off of the skin that are being pushed out from the liver. So our approach, while it does look at what you eat and what you don't eat, it's so much more than that. It's the piece on the social media and the sort of disconnecting from it. It's about upping your game on your spiritual practice, your meditation, adding Qigong in. To me, that is a better approach to detoxifying anything. And that's why I'm against take a bunch of pills and powders, detoxify your liver, but go, run all day. Don't take any time off, because I found personally, so many revelations came to me personally mid-detox because I did all those things. So I think that is back to one of your earlier questions about an advantage and a disadvantage, but I think it really ties into the fact that a good liver detox is not about what you eat and what you don't eat. It's holistic.
And I'll just ask a question about your liver detox specifically, just in case people have questions. So it would be online, and is it 14 days or longer, or just, and you don't have to say the whole program, but just a brief idea of the time commitment, how you meet, how many times you meet, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, now that it's in a virtual world, it's a little bit different. We used to meet in person 2 times, first at the first day and then again on day 8. So halfway through we met again. And then you had a certain number of things that you were working on your own. In a virtual world, we would do the same thing. We would meet on day 1. And, you know, we would be up in gallery tile and everyone would meet one another. We'd go through some slide presentations, just like we did in person. And then everyone would be, prior to that first meeting, would be emailed basically a booklet and lots of recipes and food ideas. And then we would go off on our own and we would practice, you know, basically the program. And then there would be basically a digital community going where an email would go out every day and people that wanted to would respond to the email. So we would be building the community. And then we would get back together again the second time on day 8. And we would start talking about what are some foods we're going to integrate in. And we would be in share mode. We'd be talking about our experiences and our successes and how has your weight loss been and how has your sleep been and that type of a thing. And so the work people are doing really is independent, but we would get together at least twice, usually day 1 and then again day 8, day 7 or 8. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, it did answer the question. I just wanted to clear up, because you don't know if you have to meet daily for 14 days because it's a short program. So right. Just to give people an idea of what the commitment will be. because you want
Right.
to know that first, even though as you go through the program, as you say, your busyness in the world will probably slow down, but you have to commit first. So just
Yeah.
so they can have an
Yeah.
idea of, you know, what the program is. So
Yeah.
another question I have though is, and a lot of these questions you kind of answered as we're going along, but I do want to make sure I go down the list. But how can anyone do a safe detox at home with minimal cost?
Well, that's a good, question. In even if I've answered it, we can come back to it in this way. We can all do a self-analysis right now. And Sheila, I'm going to put you on the spot, so we'll both do it. We all know that there are some things that exist in our lives and in the food that we eat that we shouldn't. And we can create our own list of what we need to detoxify from. And I'll go first so that you can think. I would go less TV. That would be, in the worldly aspect. And even still, more breaks and more periods away from work. And then in terms of the actual food, I would say for me, I'm a fat lover. I eat good fat, but on the liver detox, we do limit the fat that you eat. So I could go a little bit less fat, and I could get rid of some of the junk, the rice cracker or the crunchy this or the salty that. And that's what always tells me it's time for me to do a liver detox, because I'm grabbing or wanting those things. Mm-hmm. So how about you? Can you think of anything?
So I think what I could do, because I think we've talked about this before. I'm already in the middle of a longer term detox just from some issues that I was having. So a lot of things kind of are off the table for me now. I eat very limited, almost the same thing over and over. So there is no sugar,
right?
There's no alcohol, there's no processed foods. So a lot of those.
So you just gave a great list for what generally people at home could do to do a safe liver detox. If you are consuming alcohol, that's something that you could let go of for a period of time. If you're consuming sugar in any form, because this goes back to our sugar show that we did, you could delete that for a period of time. And what was your other one that you said?
Processed foods.
Processed foods, right there. Cereals, cookies, crackers, right. So that's how you can do a liver detox at home. You can put yourself on whole foods only for a certain period of time, and you could take away some of the things that we do in the program: caffeine, alcohol, sugar, and processed foods. That's it right there. There's an at-home liver detox. If they never do my program, if they never buy one online, that's what people can do. And, since we're all evolving in our health, as you are now, and as you are explaining, I'm eating some really repetitive things right now. Sometimes it is that real kind of stab at our health that gets us to go back to something very basic, to go back in time and to really re-clean this whole system. So people can do this safely at home. I think the problem is sometimes people just need you to hold their hand. It's hard to do by yourself. It is the basis of my health coaching business, because I believe when I meet people, they know a lot of stuff already, but it's hard to find the courage to do it by yourself. And that's why at my studio, when I owned it, I formed the groups just to make it easy for people.
And to know where to start. I think it gets very overwhelming when you tell people don't eat, or for even a short time period, don't eat everything that you've been eating. Because for some people, that's what it is. I mean, you're just saying, whatever you ate before, stop it today. And, and don't do this. Some people's diets, we already talked about too much sugar. Some people's diets have a lot of sugar in them. that they don't even really realize.
Sure. And that's why when you invited me to do, are you consuming too much sugar and the dangers of hidden sugar, I was all over it, because I continue to find things, even in my own home, that I tend to pick up at the grocery store that I didn't suspect had sugar in them. So it's a battle. It's a full-time battle. And you're right. I think that anytime you're told, stop doing this, especially when the thing you're doing is perceived to be healthy. While I was just eating chicken, I was just eating beans. I was just eating brown rice. I was just eating the things that I've always thought are healthy. That might be true for somebody, but it may not be true for you.
Right. And you also don't want people to feel deprived, because that's another probably discourager, is, instead of saying, I can have, I can't.
Right. It absolutely is. And that's why when I work with people one-on-one, and that's the basis of me doing the YouTube cooking videos, is I want to make it look fun. I want to make it taste good. I want you to be a part of doing it, because then you will invest in the ultimate act of self-care and self-love, which is to care about your food and to become involved in your food and to make your food tasty. So otherwise, we rely on the economy to do it. And the two tools that Restaurant America and the economy have, the two tools that they have to hook us, are salt and sugar. That's it. Right. It isn't quality food. Right. Unless, you're at a farm to table place and, you met the pig, you met the cow, you saw the kale grow, whatever it is, which is my life. But yeah, well, I made you laugh, so that makes me happy.
Because it's so true. The salt, the sugar, and then the sauces, they can put
and the sauces are salt and sugar.
You're right.
They're salt and sugar.
Yeah. Or dairy, or whatever. But so you do have to be really, really careful and become that label reader and become that person who, and if you're doing a liver detox, like you said, it's for a short time period. Now you might feel great. Yeah, you feel great. And maybe there's some things that you will never add back in. Yeah. But, if you want to add some things back in, you certainly can.
Well, and I think you bring up a good point, which is you can do it for a certain time and you can add some things in, but it comes down to when you start to see what you see after the liver detox. I could write a book from the revelations that I've had day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7, day 10, the most enlightened and creative times in my entire life have been mid liver detox. I find the ideas are flowing. The clarity, the literal seeing clearer is such an amazing thing that you want to do more, that you want to stay on longer. In fact, one of my addictions is black tea. I regularly try to close out my addiction a few times a year. And when I say that, I mean, I drink a cup of black tea a day, maybe 2. But I have an innate sense that it isn't good for me. And many teas have molds on them. And if you have even the slightest mold allergy, that can wreak havoc on your system. Yeah. And the first few days during the liver detox, when I don't do the black tea, I swear that I'm going to die because I don't have the energy. But on day 4, always, every single time on day 4, I have more energy than I ever did. And it reinforces in my mind this deep psychological connection that we have to salt, sugar, caffeine, alcohol, whatever it is. But it isn't real. And when we start to really clean the filter of the liver, when we start to shed the toxins, our true essence, our true self begins to arise. And that can become intoxicating and addicting. So I put myself in the liver detox a couple times a year. I gather all my friends and clients. We generally do it together, and we're all better for it at the end.
So while you're doing the liver detox, how do you know it's working? Are there any signs and symptoms that'll tell you that the liver detox is working besides the way you feel? Or is that the main, do you get rashes? What happens?
I think that your question is really poignant, and I will tell you the answer in the sense of what the clients who've done it have told me, and then I'll add a few of mine in. But when we get together the second time on our day 8, we all come in with what's been going right, what's been going wrong, and everybody gives the list. And what people will say is they've lost weight, they have more energy, they're sleeping better, their skin is better, the actual seeing through their eyes, the clarity of the world is better, and on and on and on. Now, will you get a skin rash or some pimples? Sometimes. Do people have experience sometimes constipation? Sometimes. Do they sometimes have increased flat bowel movements? Sometimes. Why? Because we're all individual. And it really just depends on how strict they are with increasing water and doing the fruits and the vegetables and the other things that are a part of the program. But everybody is uniquely different. I can tell you that hands down, 90% or better of the comments that people have are for the positive. And even the things like maybe a pimple or a change in a bowel or I was hungry, they might say, those are temporary. Those very same people, when you come back on day 8, 9, and 10, will say, I'm doing better. It's feeling great. I got through the hump. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think it is individual. I can remember one of the first liver detoxes we did. We had a group of between 15 and 20. And between us, we lost 80 pounds. 80 pounds on day 8. I myself had lost 4 or 5, but 80 pounds. Not a single person had gained weight. Some hadn't lost, but in the end, everyone did. So, I mean, it's a natural byproduct of eliminating what you said, the processed foods, the alcohol, the salt, the sugar. It's just a natural byproduct of it.
Wow. That's impressive. Those are impressive results. They really are. I'm going to ask one final question. What can, and again, you partially answered some of the questions, but I'm going to ask the whole question because the second part you actually did not hit on. But what can you expect after detoxing the liver, and how are the benefits going?
Yeah, some of the expectations, yes, we've talked about, and they will vary from individual to individual. But I think the way that you keep it going, what I always do, this is a personal thing for me. Prior to the detox starting, let's say if you're starting on a Monday, 3 or 4 or 5 days before the detox, I'll slowly start. You know, if I'm used to having that drink on the weekend, I won't. If I was eating meat products, maybe I wouldn't for the first few days. So I always do this little start before you start thing because it makes it so much easier when you start. To contrast that, at the other end of it, when it's over, I try to just pick a few things to hold on to, like don't add the salt back in, you know, make that commitment to keep the processed foods out of the house. So I think one of the ways you keep it going is pick a few of the habits of the liver detox, even if it's the slow down, take more rest, take more baths, Ayurvedic dry brushes, but keep a couple of the habits that you had going, continue those. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, right? So you can
and then
keep
you're never fully.
Wow. Really, really interesting. And this is something that you yourself do. So we'll just talk about yourself. So you do it a couple times a year.
That's right. And I will tell you, I made the mistake living in, you know, the Northeast of doing one detox in January. And after working with some Chinese medicine professionals, we sort of came to the conclusion that that is not the season to do the liver detox because it's cold. And when you look at the yin and yang of our bodies and our organs and the climate, we want to be doing it more toward the spring when things are starting to bloom and blossom and warm. You can do it in January, but it's just a little harder on your system. So I always do it sometime in April, May, and then again, September, October. And I'm turning 60 next week. And that's going to be the day that I'm going to start the spring liver detox for me personally.
Oh, that's good, because it's right. That's good. Tie it to an event.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have a spring birthday.
That's right.
So it actually works out well. My birthday is in November, so no.
Yeah, so you would do pre-birthday, maybe October, so that you're feeling your best this year on your birthday. And Sheila, I'll make a plan and a deal with you. How about if you and I together do some type of a little mini liver detox using the concepts in October and get ready for your birthday? I
would be more than happy to do that.
All right, I won't forget.
Happy to do it. So it's a plan. It's a plan.
It's a date.
So, yeah. So, well, it looks like we are almost out of time, Susan. That really went by quickly, as always. You know, all of our conversations go by really fast, at least to me. And we get so much great information from everything that you're giving us. But I do want to make sure that I put your information, Facebook and Instagram. So that's where you can find Susan. If you're interested in her liver detox program, you can really contact her through either one of these. Actually, you can message her through Facebook or Instagram, or you can, even if you wanted to contact me, because I do know Susan, if you want to contact me, and I can relay the information to her also. So either way, if this conversation resonated with you, and it's something that you are, feeling that it is time for you to do, please, by all means, reach out. Reach out so that you can feel better. That is the point of this entire show, is for you to feel better. So that being said, we are getting ready to sign off. I'm going to say my goodbyes to Susan, who has been a wonderful guest in the whole series, because we really, really have learned a lot. And don't forget, if you wanted to go back and even look at some of these, if you're on Facebook, they are on Facebook. If you go to Facebook videos, you can go, it was under KP Media TV. And you can just scroll down. You'll actually probably see my face, and you can just hit it and you'll be able to see which show it is. But she's done a few of them. So hopefully you'll enjoy that and get that background information. So thank you, Susan, for being here. Thank you so much. And thank you, audience. I really appreciate you being here. I'm just going to end with a short commercial, and we will be done. So thank you. And perhaps I'll do a commercial, and perhaps I will not. We will see. Here we go. Here we go. So thank you again, Susan. Thank you. We are out of time. So go ahead and enjoy your day. And I really, really appreciate you being on the show. And by the audience, thank you all so much for tuning in to Living Well with Dr. Sheila.